it's time to speak, it's time to present something, it's time to even talk about something that you really feel you know about, and you feel like it's, you're stumbling around, you didn't come across as confident as you wanted to. And I want you to understand that this experience is dreadful when you really feel like you just did not make that connection, you just did not get that across, especially if you're a coach, a trainer, or if you're a leader or an entrepreneur who is giving guidance and direction, or if you're just trying to talk to someone about something, whether it's even something you're trying to deal with in your personal life or professional life. We never want to be in that position where we just did not come across as knowledgeable and on top of things with respect to something that we're discussing. So we're talking about that today. You haven't learned enough. The importance of striving for mastery. Mastery. So we're going to be talking about that today, and this is a very important subject. And to all of you leaders out there, whether in your personal life, as I mentioned, professional life, and of course, entrepreneurs, always want to see you grow. We have to understand what mastery is all about. And as the kind of thumbnail of this saying you haven't learned enough is that kind of hits you. It kind of sounds like a little bit of a personal take, or kind of hits you personally thinking about, well, what do you mean I haven't learned enough? But I want you to really think about this and consider that there could be some things that you need to learn more of to be able to properly master things to be as effective as you want to be. Now, I want to be really clear to you that when mastery is something that actually will solve a lot of problems of issues with respect to confusion about what you're talking about, effectiveness in your leadership, and ultimately it will lead to financial success. And so this is why this subject is so important. Now, before we jump in too deep here, I want to remind you, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, do all those YouTube things, and make sure to keep coming back here for content from myself, Michael E. Parker, as well as You Are a CEO. And, today we're talking about something that is extremely important. I want to go to my whiteboard here for a minute. I want you to understand something, that when you think about mastery, mastery actually leads to money, right? And, not that everyone in every situation is thinking about money, because it also can lead to the ability to learn, or helping someone to grow, right? So mastery is really an essential element, but I want you to be aware of this, especially for all you entrepreneurs out there. A lot of you who are wanting to grow as an entrepreneur, you want to grow in your business, you want to grow your dream, but I want you to understand, for you to really make the most money, for you to be able to do the most that you can in that thing that you're trying to do, mastery is so important. And I find this all the time. I deal with individuals, and I'll find out that they're not where they think they are, and because of that, they can't get where they think they can get. And so we want to really understand that. And so all of you that are live here with me, listening in, I want you to consider that, and all of you that'll see this later, make sure you're aware of how critical this is. Now, when you think about mastery, I want you to think about just kind of different levels of learning, right? And, I'm going to come back here to the whiteboard for a minute. Now, when you think about it, there is awareness that we can have about something, right? And then there's what I would call knowledge that we can have about something. And then there's what we're talking about today, which is mastery, right? So when you think about these, I want you to know that, again, we're thinking about awareness. This is more, you heard about it, right? So you heard about it, and ultimately you're familiar with it, right? You're familiar with what's actually going on there with respect to awareness, right? So you heard about it, you're familiar. We get to knowledge, now I know about it, right? So that's definitely another level there. And, so you think about, when I know about something, so now I was just familiar, but now I actually have some level of knowledge about it, right? I know about it. I'm able to actually, really communicate, about it to some certain extent. So I, have some level, I'm beyond, being familiar. Now I've moved into, actually knowing about it. And because I know about it, now I'm able to actually, I can talk about it to a certain extent. So I'm able to now talk about it, and because I have a certain level of knowledge about it. When we deal with mastery, right, now we're dealing with, I'm actually in a situation where I've become it, right? And, now, you could say I've become masterful, right? So, I'm full of mastery about this particular thing. So we want to understand these distinctions. When I become aware about something, that's really good. I'm now able to at least be in the room. I'm at least aware that, this it exists, right? So, I'm aware that this concept, this issue, this skill, right, exist. So I know about the existence of it. With the knowledge, I can actually, I'm beyond knowing that its existence. Now I'm getting into the ability to actually, teach it to a certain extent. Now, somebody who has knowledge, I can begin to teach, but there's levels of it. If I'm more knowledgeable, I can teach more, right? Now, if I have risen to a level of mastery, right? Now I'm able to actually demonstrate that level of understanding, and because of demonstration, of course, you can teach people at a higher level because you've actually become that thing, right? And so I want you to be aware of that. These are very important things. And this is a lot of times why people run into challenges as a leader, as a professional, as an entrepreneur, is they have not taken the time to really enter into mastery. And so that's why I want you to really consider this, because there's a lot of things around you that you have knowledge of, that you're aware of, but you might not be, really realizing that you're not at this level of what we call mastery. So I want you to consider that when we think about mastery, so I want you to think about a few things. I want you to understand some of the areas that you have mastery, right? So, for example, if when it's time to go and let's just take, you're getting up in the morning, right? And it's time to, let's say, wash your face, right? You have mastery because you don't have to think about that. You know how to do that, right? Brush your teeth. You don't need a seminar. You're very confident about this, right? It's without thinking, right? Getting dressed, right? You're not thinking about that, right? Tie shoes, right? If you're putting on tennis shoes, you don't think twice about, making breakfast, right? Whatever that thing is. It's almost like you just go and you just do, right? Because you've mastered certain things, and all of you can think about things like this, that you don't really think about it, right? But you do it, right? But you don't really have to put a lot of thought into it because you really have done that so much. You understand that thing so well, right? Let's say driving, right? Driving your car. When you get in your car, you're a lot of times thinking about where you're going. You're not thinking about how to drive, right? This is mastery, right? When you're thinking about things at that level. So I want you to consider that the things in our life where we've arisen to that level, of mastery, right? So think about even in things that you might communicate. So if someone, asked you, where you were from, right? So, issues or information about things that you know exactly where you're from and you can describe that, or where you live, right? So like directions, home, there's a level of mastery there, right? To talk about where you live and where to go, right? If you were just, describing, how to tell time when you look at a watch, right? What the different parts of, whether you're looking at digitally or looking at the two hands of a clock, you know how to describe that, right? It's automatic. You just say, hey, this is what you do. If you need to tell someone how to read a clock, you could do that. The alphabet, all these things. We remember when we were younger and we had to remember the old song, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, you remember that, W, all that. We would do that. What were they doing? They were programming us. And so what do we do through that repetition? It started off as awareness. It moved to knowledge. Now we have levels of mastery. And because of levels of mastery, we can actually form sentences and words. We can do all of that because we have entered into a level of mastery with the alphabet. So when you enter into levels of mastery, you're able then to do things with that thing that other people cannot do. So someone who is able to enter a spelling bee had to first master the alphabet. And then they're able to get into a spelling bee. They're able to get into being a writer. They're able to get into speeches and speaking. But it started with that principal level of mastery. So I want you to really get that, because we have mastery around us. We've experienced mastery. All of you have. But I want you to consider that in areas of your life, whether that's in your business or things that people are relying on your leadership for, are there areas you have not actually become what you need to become to be able to do that thing that you're trying to do? So you're trying to grow a business. You're trying to parent a child. You're trying to build a relationship. You're trying to actually grow a particular skill. And too often we put in, a minimal effort expecting a maximum result. We don't really put the real effort in that it takes to rise at that level so that we can be that thing. So a lot of times people are, they're focusing on, what can I do to, I want to do this so I can make money. So if I do this, I'll be able to make money. If I learn this, I'll be able to make money. But they skip a step in that I have to first become that, right? If I really become that, then I'm able to know how to do that in a way that is at a level that I will be able to be paid for it. So a lot of times people wonder, well, why, let me say this, there's a lot of things that we can learn. There's a lot of things online. There's a lot of things that we all have gained. But today, in the world of so much information and knowledge, and this is really true in any world, but especially in the world today, you have to be good, right? We got to be good at what we do. You can't just expect that people are going to do it because you put something out there that is great, right? We can't just assume because I have knowledge of this and I talk about it that everyone, is going to love it. It's just as good as anything else. We really have to be good, right? You got to be good at what you do. And you don't want to become a stagnant individual that is living in the past. And because you're living in the past, you don't realize that you have not arisen to the level of mastery because you have been moving forward in your life based on knowledge, based on awareness. And you've almost built a lot around that, but you still have not entered those levels of mastery. And that is why you can't get to higher levels in whatever it is that you're doing, because you really don't have that mastery that you should about whatever that thing is. Especially entrepreneurs, I talk to them all the time and I see their dream and what they're trying to do, what they want to do. They want to get here, they want to get there. And sometimes I want to stop and tell them, hey, you haven't put the work in. You haven't done enough. You haven't learned enough, right? You're still watching too much television. You haven't read enough books. You haven't stayed up enough to really learn that thing. You haven't tried it and implemented and went through the bruises of trial and error to really get it, right? You got a lot of book knowledge, but you don't have any experience. You got a lot of YouTube knowledge, but you don't have any experience. You're just watching the videos. You don't take the video and go and use what you learn to become and grow on the scale of mastery. You're content with being able to talk about it. You're content with being able to have a good conversation piece with your friends. But you don't really go to that step of mastery. You're content with having people call your name and say that you know about that. But you really know in your heart that they just haven't asked the right question yet to expose what you don't know. So this is what I'm talking about when I talk about mastery. We're talking about, it gets really serious when you consider, where are you really at? Do you really have that thing? Where have you become that thing, right? See, this is what I want you to really think about. This is very important, and we all should have the areas of our life that we want to strive for mastery. There's some things where we want to go further. There's some things that we know we want to be masters at. And so whatever you're doing, whatever your craft, whatever your thing is, you have to challenge yourself. A lot of us, we live in a life that's just full of distraction. Right? Before we can even finish reading that book, we get distracted. Before we can watch that thing, we get distracted. Some of you are afraid to move forward in your business, in your career. You're always second guessing yourself. And you know why? Because you know you haven't mastered it. You know you don't fully understand it. So you're afraid. You're not afraid to go drive your car. You're not afraid to put your clothes on. You're not afraid to wash your face. Why? You've mastered that. If I said I'm going to give you a certain amount of money if you can just go get your keys, get in your car, and back out the driveway, you wouldn't have any fear. You know how to do that. But it's those things that you want to make money on, those things you want to create success around that you know you've not mastered because you've not put the time in, because you've not taken it serious enough. And I'm speaking this from my heart because I know what it feels like to put that time in. I've had to do that all my life in so many ways, and I share that with you because you are not going to get where you want to go until you make a decision in your mind. You have to make a decision that I want to master something, right? Not just a choice, a decision. Decision has the word scission in it. Means you have to cut something off. I cut off the TV. I cut off social media. I cut off a distraction. I cut off people who are going to be a distraction to where I'm trying to go. I've cut off fear. I've cut off doubt. I've cut off making excuses of why I didn't sit down and put the time in to learn and to master and to try, right? So I have to cut something off. I'm not just making a choice. I'm making a decision. So I want you to consider that. This is why so many of us and so many of you that will see this are not where you want to be. You're not arriving at where you want to go. You haven't made a decision to become a master, to enter into mastery. You don't want to pay the price for that, but you have to be willing to pay that price. Now, I'm going to walk you through a few things that will help you understand what mastery looks like. So I want to go over a few things with you. So one of the first things that I want to mention is mindset. And mindset has to do with confidence, confident thoughts. Okay, so to enter into mastery, you have to have confident thoughts. When you are a master at something, you have confidence about it. You are confident, right, about it because you have entered a level of mastery. You have to have. If you have mastered something, you will have confidence. The reason you don't have full confidence in yourself is because you've broken too many promises to yourself, right? So sometimes you will lack confidence in yourself because of how you feel about yourself, how you think about yourself, because you know there's areas you have not mastered. So what? When we master things, it creates a confidence. It creates a strength. It creates a belief. So this is a part of what we mean by mastery. Another part of mastery is automatic. So this means you can communicate without overthinking. So when you have mastery, you can do things on automatic. You're not, you ever watch someone that's talking and there might be on YouTube or they're giving a presentation and the whole time they're looking down and they're looking up. You ever had to give something, you have to keep looking at what you're doing? You haven't mastered it, right? You haven't mastered it. You don't have to, they have to look at their notes. They have to try to find it, right? What am I supposed to say? Some of the best people that are able to connect with people are people who have learned that thing. And even if they're trying to remember the flow of how they're going to talk about it, they might need something to trigger their thought, like a word or a slide. But one after that, they let me loose. I've got this, right? Because I don't need to go through a training. I don't need reminders. It's automatic. So this is what we're talking about. You have to get to that with certain areas that you want to have mastery in your business, in your, your life, in your career, in your leadership. You have to get to that level of automatic. If it's not automatic, you may have not put enough time in. If you got to keep looking at the manual, looking at the instructions, you got to keep getting tips, you haven't mastered it, right? So this is what we're trying to arrive at. Here's another key. I want you to also understand let me say this too about automatic, is that, it goes into this next word here, which is simple. So, simplicity is a sign of mastery. Now, what do I mean by that? So the more you have mastered something, the more simple you can make it, because you understand it at such a level. When I've mastered something, so I'll give you an example. I love playing the piano, and when I get certain songs that I've practiced, I can do some things, right? When I start working on a song and I'm working on the chords and how it goes, then I'll just play it. Now, I have a knowledge of those songs, and I can play a lot of different things when I'm in that frame of mind. But if I take too much time away and come back and try to remember those songs, sometimes I struggle because I've not mastered it, right? Where I'm completely free, where I understand the chords and the things that make up that song, so that really, if I need to change keys, if I need to play it a different way, if I have to play it for someone who is singing, or play with a band and adjust it for the situation, because I've mastered it, I could simplify it and be able to move wherever I need to move, right? But because I haven't mastered it, I've got to try to get back into what I was doing before and remember that exact pattern, right? I can't break away from that. So what that shows, I got to put more time in, right, to get to mastery. That's what I'm striving for. And of course, the piano is a very, more complicated thing. Music is not necessarily, easy, especially if you're doing it later in life. When you're younger and your brain is firing and you're a kid and you're in that discovery mode, it's easier to pick things up. But you got to put the work in. It means you have to put more time in. There's no excuses. You got to do it. Right. And so sometimes when I mess up on the piano, I don't get, that's why you're not going to see me nowhere trying to teach piano. Right. Even though I can play it, and I can, every now and then I'll play something might make you cry. Like this sounds good. But you're not going to see me trying to teach nobody why? I know I haven't become that yet. I haven't mastered that. But how many of us are trying to do that in areas where we've not mastered? And you haven't put the work in. You're not even conscious, you haven't entered into mastery. You have to enter into mastery to be able to do that thing, right? If I have mastery of the piano, I could teach and someone would pay me to teach them. I don't have that. So you got to think about that. Where are you at? That leads me to another area, which is time, right? You have to put the time in. You got to put the time in. So mastery are people who put the time in, right? I love what Bruce Lee used to say. He was more concerned about the person, not who could do 10,000 kicks, but the person who had done one kick 10,000 times. Why? That person has mastered that kick. That's what's making them dangerous. They might not can do everything, but if they catch you with that kick, you're going to have a problem because that kick has been mastered, right? So being able to understand that, again, I would rather, I'm not as afraid as a person who has practiced 10,000 kicks as much as a person who practiced one kick 10,000 times. Mastery, put the time in, right? Now here's another key. Everything. Now, I want you to consider, we want to be able to know everything about the one thing, right? So when you think about mastery, don't think that, so for example, if I'm dealing with marketing, I might be knowledgeable about marketing, but I might be a master at building marketing campaigns or marketing messaging or copywriting or writing headlines for advertising campaigns, right? I'm just making these things up. So, and you have to know that. Where do you have knowledge and where do you have mastery? Now, it's okay. You can build a business on knowledge, absolutely, and make money. But those of you that strive for mastery and really become that thing in a particular area so you can build around your strength, right? You can make some money on your knowledge too, but that mastery is where you can really make the big dollars, have the big impact, have the big results on the job, have the big impact on being able to lead people, right? Very important. Now here's another one, and that is repetition. So I want you to remember this, that repetition creates confidence. So some of us haven't reached mastery because we just haven't done it enough. You have to do it over and over and over and over. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Remember? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Remember? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I keep doing that. Something's happening. I'm programming myself. But it's the same thing with experiences. It's the same thing. How many of you read a book or watch a video? You know, we have a whole platform at URCL full of information. But I see so many people that make the lethal mistake. They watch a video once, they watch a training once, and they think they got it. They watch some of these videos one time, and they think they have it. No, you have to listen to it again. You got to listen to it in your car. You got to listen to it on your phone with those headbuds in. You have to take notes. You have to write things down. You have to take it seriously. Did I really master it? Like, can I tell someone else about this in a thorough way without looking at that? Or do you have the false pretense and the false thoughts that because you heard that thing one time, because you really like what you heard and you got excited, that you got it now. Now I'm going to go do this. Or are you that person that comes back and listens to that again, reads that again, that writes down the notes? When you read a book, don't write down what's in the book. Write what you got from the book while you were reading. The epiphanies, the ahas. What are you getting out of this session right now? What's standing out? You know, are you processing the things that are standing? Are you just saying, man, that was good, and never going to think about it again next 5, 10 years? Repetition. Repetition. And last but not least is you. So, put it this way. It must become a part of you. It must become a part of you, right? Has to become a part of you. Has to become a part of your makeup and what you're doing because you put the time in. Now, I want to remind you, before I kind of give some final thoughts here, make sure you like and you share and you comment. And I challenge any of you right now that's watching live to click that share button and share it somewhere and tell everybody that I'm learning about striving for mastery. And, it's all, put something out there thought-provoking. Share right now, right while you hear that I'm learning about striving for mastery, and join us. So share and let people know there's something happening right now. We're talking about something serious. And we want as many people as possible to benefit from what's being talked about right now. You know why? Because there's too many people content with mediocrity. There's too many people content with things that are half-baked, half-cooked. There are too many people that are complaining, but they've not put the work in, right? They've not put enough time in. And think about it. We make time for what's important to us. Bottom line, we make time for what's important to us. So we have to choose what are those things that are so important to us that we are going to actually do something about our pathway towards mastery. Where are you at on that journey? So when we look at where you are and we start to climb, right? Mastery is up here. Awareness is down here. And knowledge is a continual journey towards mastery, right? And you ever, somebody on a bike or something, and they're trying to go out and ride or whatever, right? And they got their bike or whatever, and you figure that it's one thing to ride your bike on the flatland. It's another thing when you look up and you see that hill, right? And it's time to go up that hill. You get a lot of thoughts about getting off that bike. You get a lot of thoughts when your legs start burning. And when you really start to feel that pain. When you're breathing hard and you see that incline is getting worse as you go. And you're trying to keep that momentum. And this is what happens mentally. There is a strain. Oh, sorry about that. There is a strain that when I start to learn, and then I start to implement, and then I start to relearn and implement and relearn and implement, right? So learn and relearn, implement. As I begin to do that, I keep doing it, right? And I'll do it as many times as I have to until I break away from this and I actually start moving into mastery, because I didn't get off the bicycle of learning, the bicycle of experience, the bicycle of trying, right? Think about riding a bike. If some of you, do you remember, some of y'all might remember back to the training wheels, there was a time where you didn't know and you kept falling. That was the only way to learn. Then all at once you entered into mastery. You just get on a bike and you go. You don't think about it. You just go. And that is the key. We want to get to that level of mastery. So I'm going to sum this up for you one time here, and I want you to remember this. We want to have a mindset that gives confident thoughts. That's how, when you enter the mastery, you're going to have that. We want things to be on automatic so I can communicate without overthinking, right? Just like today, I don't have a script. This is in me what I'm telling you, right? You have to get to that point. It's automatic. When you have mastery, you can simplify things. All right, because you understand it at such a deep level. You can teach it to a child. You can teach it to, a doctor, right? I have to be able to put the time in. I've put the time in. So because I put the time in, I'm confident. Everything about the one thing, and I really isolate that thing I'm trying to master and learn everything about it that I can. Repetition, to do things over and over so my confidence grows because I've done it so many times. Why couldn't I do it this time? Why couldn't I say it this time? Why couldn't I teach it this time? I've done it so many times. And last but not least, it must become a part of you. And when it becomes a part of you, it's not something that you do, it's something that you are. Very, very important. All right, well, that has it. We're talking about, you can see why we said you haven't learned enough and the importance of striving for mastery. I hope you got a lot out of this. Listen, make sure to comment and subscribe and do all the likes and so forth as we've been talking about. Always, always come back here. You know, when I talk about repetition, some of y'all post a lot of comments while we're live, but it doesn't show up after the video posts in the main comments for everyone to see. So I have live comments on YouTube, and then you have the comments on the video after it posts. I really advise some of you, take a minute after we post, come back and leave some thoughts. You got some comments in here live, which is good. You've been in this conversation, you that were here. But now, after this kind of post, come back and leave some thoughts about what you got out of this. Leave a summary of what you got out of this. And while you're doing that, you're entering into more mastery just by coming back to this video and posting what you got out of this and hearing yourself in your own words talk about what you got so that you can keep becoming what you've learned and you can eventually have the mastery you need to achieve the things that you want. I appreciate you for being with me as always. We want you to continue to grow your business, grow your career, and to keep taking your life to the highest level and running that most important business, which is the business of you. I'll see you next time.